Hello and welcome to day 49 of 365 days towards racial change. I am Thomas Nyback. Let's get right into a lot of material to digest today. Again, we're informed by Dr. Claude Anderson. Please YouTube his videos. A lot of great information. He's a speaker around the country. He's still very active. We're informed by a lot of his works here. I'm using 3 of his books that I've read. Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. Black Labor, White Wealth, Search for Power and Economic Justice for Black America. And that is the issue, the central question we're always teasing at here. A couple things we're always teasing at. One is, black life, black entitlement. Not black entitlement, white entitlement, white privilege in America, and then how those things work off each other, stemming from slavery in America. And does that minds, attitudes, can they be inherited? Are they passed down from generation to generation? The blacks, are they indoctrinated, taught in a slavery mindset, to live life and engage life, and does a white mindset proliferate through life? Are these things real? Are they real phenomenons? Or do people really come out the gate with equal opportunities in America? I'm just presenting various levels of evidence. You make your own conclusion. Also, playing the economic game rightly in America. There's a way to play it. Blacks in general are essentially a consumer class in America. We're either working our butts off and carrying our disposable income and wealth to other nations in the form of Walmart, which is just a big Chinese outlet for Chinese goods. Look on the tags. It's Chinese stuff, except for the food, I guess. But our stuff, this is Chinese. This hat was made in China. So it's all these Chinese goods we're forced to buy from a nation, people that does not reciprocate when it comes to black business. Well, we touch on that every once in a while here in this forum. Also, there's a way to play economically correctly. First being aware of the consumerism of blackness and a lot of issues. We touch on those occasionally. I don't want to belabor the point. We've got a lot to get to. Finally, Dr. Anderson's book, Powernomics, his national plan to empower Black America. His vision was to see a lot of this machinery going by 2005. It's 2019. So, yeah, I'm just learning this information. I feel it's that important, just even for my small handful of people community, to communicate through text and videos to get our minds going and thinking about this subject. Every once in a while, we'll take it down. We'll have a fictional account of slavery in America. Harriet Beecher Stowe's phenomenal work here, Uncle Tom's Cabin, came out in the mid-1800s. Collection of short stories with a common theme. Uncle Tom, obviously, was one of the common characters, and there's a lot of action and stuff and sadness. But this fictional account is very indicative of slave life, and we also continue the question of, does this slave existence in America still prevail? Behind me, you'll see a hashtag #US2. Connect with that movement. It's a lot of black women are there, but it's an open forum, addressing issues of blackness in America. There's also a website I occasionally go to, Blaggenuf, BLAGGENUF. You can find that easily. That's another community. And I'm sure there's Facebooks, Twitters, tweets, and any community you think of. There's plenty of Black discourse happening here online. Okay. Now, today we're going to, oh yeah, before I get too far, I want to talk about disclaimer. Yesterday I kind of promoted and hyped Haiti as a possible international resource for creating big business for Black Americans. And I want to give a disclaimer about whatever views I share here are for educational purposes only. Whatever decisions, however you move forward on this information is all your responsibility. And I say that because today, in our day 49, I just got news that Haiti is in some uproar and turmoil politically, and it might not be the best nation to invest in if you've got that kind of cash laying around to begin with. I don't. I just use Haiti as, that if Black business got big enough, then it'd be a great international. There are other international resources. We can outsource our work and things just as white Americans and others do. So that's mainly what I was doing. There's already entrepreneurship and capital going to Africa from Black folks. It's here in Dr. Anderson's resources somewhere, I'm sure, in this year I'll stumble back upon that information as well. So it's just about being open about where to use capital to enrich Black Americans. All right, today's topic is religion. We'll always come back to that. We go broad, and we get these broad subjects, and we focus in and more and focus on these topics. Today we'll look at a handful of major religions, and down the road we'll focus on specifics of those religions and things like that, so we continue to get more and more myopic on the subject and tease out the various expressions, how they appear in slavery in America, blah, blah, blah. So, with that, we're not, this isn't a discourse or a conversation on the existence of God, eternity, and things like that. Those are your personal views, if you haven't. What I'm interested in is the thinking. Is this slave mind, is the Black mind influenced at all by any kind of slave indoctrination, or are we still unconsciously behaving in America as a religiously educated slave in dogma, just accepting what is said and spoken without doing our own research? Got to be careful of that. I don't want to just show up to a religious gathering, have some man or woman in the pulpit say stuff and me run with it. I've actually done that in the past, and it's resulted in my hurt. So, because I didn't do my own research, because I was not aware, that's, be careful of living someone else's agenda. Don't live my agenda. Don't accept what's said here, hook, line, and sinker, and run with it. Don't accept Dr. Anderson's talk with no sense of critiquing his information. Go and do some research. Validate some of this stuff that you're hearing from any sector here in the world, in America, and make sure that you're not being used and manipulated. Okay? First up is our old friends Islam and Muslims. Islam and and the Muslim religion, that's an Arab phenomenon. Now, I want to make that clear. I used to get in arguments with black folks even before I got this information. They say, that blacks uh, were originally a Muslim uh, people and things like that. That's not true. The Arabs came down from the north and from the east into uh, Africa, conquered and enslaved people, and forwarded their religion. Look at the world today. Look at the languages that are spoken. Look at the customs that exist. It's the customs, language, religion of the most powerful influence at that time. You know, Haiti is a French nation because France had its dominant influence. Yet when Haiti got its independence, they relied on what existed there at the time. Look at any nation. Look at South America, where you find Portuguese and various Spanish languages. You know, uh, there's a difference between Mexican and Cuban because it's whoever was in power at the time, forwarded their education, their customs, their religion. So the African religion is not uh, Islam because it's in Africa. Any um, Islamic expression in Africa is because Arabs came down and conquered those people, enslaved those people, and enforced their religion, their ideas. There are French speaking nations in Africa. There are English speaking nations in Africa. South Africa is a big example of that. They speak English because the English went in there and conquered them. As to say, so Islam, it's very disappointing to see when black folks don't do their research. They think that because so many of these African nations are Islamic, then we should be Islamic by default. That's an incorrect uh, assessment of how we should interact with God. Just by default. Don't, without thinking, without doing it. I grew up in a Christian home, essentially, uh, but I had to do my own research, and my feelings about God and how I interact with my faith is so much different from what I was taught to believe. I've done my own research about it, and I'm comfortable in that way. So be careful about that. There's a book that Dr. Anderson references in here. It's called Slavery and Human Progress by David Bryan Davis. And he talks about the Arabs taking 1 million slaves a year from Africa. You're talking about millions and millions of people and a whole system and a whole culture of slavery. So while Islam may be a great religion, great way to interact with God and fellowship and things like that, it's not an organization or religion that is above and beyond enslaving other human beings. Which we'll find out. Dr. Anderson exposes that any religion you find is going to oppress, exploit, turn people by force, if you will, to their way of thinking. Next up is the Jews. Now, the Jews, you look through the Bible, if you kind of, if you believe in the Old Testament, the Jews have been slaves, got out of their slavery, and became slave traders, became involved with slave tradition. They've always been there at some level. Ever since they went down to Egypt and were, were there in Goshen, until a pharaoh rose up who knew not Joseph. They've always had some kind of history, some interaction with slavery. Catholics have a very well documented relationship with slavery. In 1488, Pope Innocent received 100 Moorish slaves from Ferdinand of Spain. Now, the Moors, we don't hear much about them. You really got to keep your eyes and ears open. Occasionally, if you're watching like some fictional account of medieval Europe, and there's a black person in there, or you'll hear the word Moor. They're not saying they want an increase in quantity of something. They're talking about a specific people that they lived around the Mediterranean rim there, around the ocean. I'm not sure if it was specifically from Africa, but they were people. They were used as military. They were like the military Marines in some cases, known for ferocity, strength, and all the good aspects of blackness was exploited in the Moors. So these Moors, I want to say unknowingly, presented themselves to, were exploited by these profiteering people, lazy people, and the Moors, these dark people went to work, and they were a gift to the Pope. Later in 1514, we find the Spanish really involved in this. I don't know if it's because of their geographical position in Europe. They're kind of a southern nation, Spain and Portugal. So they had their access to Africa was more readily available than, say, a more northern nation, country like England, the United Kingdom. So in 1514, as the knowledge of the new land in the West was opening up, and we had that whole machine starting, this guy, Bartolome, that's a priest, de las Casas, I got to work on my Spanish, obviously, he made a situation where he give Spanish families 12 slaves to take with them to do work. It'd be like, if we were going to a new place and we bought tractors and carts and wagons and stuff. These were they were using black folks for this. So, you get 12 slaves, boom, drafted into this new emerging nations, Central America, the Americas, the Caribbean islands, and such. Okay. So, the idea that these dark people were drafted and readily available to relieve the sufferings of labor of white folks, Indians, Spanish, Portuguese, Italians, French. It was just a big mess that catered to the laziness of mankind. You know, they saw, they must have perceived blacks as just sitting around and lazy or something like that. Yet we're the hardest workers, and we've built these nations from the North Pole all the way down to the tip of South America. Black folks built and worked, cleared land, carried loads, fought in wars, all this stuff with little to more essentially no payment for the work. We were conscripted as free labor to work on the land that these other European nations were stealing from the natives here in the emerging Americas. Never forget that. Keep that in your mind. You know, so Islam, Jewish faith, Catholics, Catholicism, all had their hand in the exploitation of blacks. Um, and it's sad, you know, and we're marginalized and we're looked down upon, you know, some aspects of life despise us as they perceive us as being weak and shiftless and mindless. You know, these are problematic, very problematic issues going on towards blacks in the world. You know, we've got to turn that around. Finally, bringing things more up to date back home here in America is the Protestants. And we can go to any Baptist, you know, we got the Baptist and Methodist, the Protestantism is a reaction to Catholicism. You know, if you look at the history and you dissect that word Protestant, it's a protest against the prevailing religion of that time, Catholicism. The breakaway, it's a separation from the Catholics, and within Protestants, you got the Lutherans, you got the Baptists, Methodists, Episcopalians, charismatic, Pentecostals, whole host of things. Even Catholicism has its branches and beliefs. You got the Greeks and this and that. The religion thing is just it's problematic because you got so many ideas and beliefs, and I mean, you've seen divisions, wars fought, torturing, inquisitions behind this thing. So we really got it messed up, you know, no matter where you land with religion. But the Protestants, he cites Baptists. I'm coming out of his book, Black Labor and White Wealth, is still problematic because, you know, in this country, the white entitlement, white power made sure that they controlled the message as the idea of God was disseminated to the slave culture, to the slave mind. You know, for white entitlement, white power, religion and God was win-win for them. You know, they're winning now. They're entitled through their power, through their color of their skin, to succeed, excel, progress, elevate themselves, exploit. And then when they cross over into the great by and by, they are still number one. They are still closest to God. They are still in a position to be sought after through how a slave interacts in this life. Now, for the slave, it was lose now, win later. See how that works? So that these white masters, white religion, white religion controlling black pastors and preachers of the day, you know, were committed and compelled the message to be one of, you're a slave now, working hard and all that. You must be obedient. You must not cause trouble, you know, in the name of God and Jesus and all this stuff. And then from doing good, being a good slave in this life, then you'll be with us in the great by and by, you know. You know, it's still, see, this white heaven, I guess, is there's no more pain, suffering, or hard work, but there's still uh, stratifications there, where the slave is going to be so happy that they can interact with master, not exactly eye level, but just a little bit, you know, there's a little bit of separation there, even in heaven, is the Protestant Baptist way. And see, that's what I'm trying to tease out and get at with this the black mind in America. You know, see, in education, religion, work, these, you know, any broad business, white minds receive this information and ideas and whatnot so much differently from black minds, you know, and I'm talking generalities, of course. You know, the black mind doesn't know what privileges exist. We're not taught to think for ourselves. We're not just indoctrinated from even in school to um, to live the same kind of entitlement and privilege as our white counterparts in the same classrooms. You give an example, like my education, but they just dropped slavery on us and all this oppression and that being black and our history is being suppressed. And, you know, white people just, even from early education, are just let off the hook, so to speak, with this mindset. And that's inappropriate to not have to follow up and check in with the education. But now I believe that education and any of these things we even talked about today, these are intentional. Um, it's an intentional oppression of black minds versus the intentional indoctrination to entitlement and privilege to minds that are not black. And we do this right in our schoolrooms and our education. And we were so surprised at the outcome of this phenomenon, where blacks don't do as well, where blacks are just, just so passive in our incarceration and the violation of our rights and our inability to participate equally at America's table of wealth and resources. You know, and I'd be scratching my head. You know, how do white people, they just move right on through like a hot knife through butter? You know, and part of this is why I've not done my investigation. I've not done research. I'm not encouraged to investigate and research. I'm thankful for Dr. Anderson's message because it's caused me to think outside the box more often than not lately. That's where my growth, my answers are to reaching out, elevating myself, you know. So there's a handful of thoughts on religion and groups, you know, that are so ready to welcome us and so ready to have us saved or have us bowing down X times a day and all this, you know, serving them, you know. Let's get the history right. Let's understand God for ourselves or dismiss God for ourselves wherever you're at with the issue of spirituality and religion and a relationship with God. I don't care what exactly that is. I'm not trying to indoctrinate you toward any way. I want this community to think about what they believe, know why they believe it. Is it a belief that's serving us, that's enriching us, you know, changing our financial habits, our attitude towards the world, our understanding of privilege and power in America? Very important times for us. Thanks for stopping in. I'm over time. Again, I can go on forever on this issue. I'm Tom Nyback. Thanks for stopping in for 365 days towards racial change. See you soon.